Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker-Hagan, and I have my co-host.
And good evening, Dr. J.R. Thicklin here, and I'm excited about this new month of April. You know, they say April showers bring May flowers. Well, I believe that we're going to experience some showers of a different proportion. Showers of blessing, the showers of unexpectedness, showers of success, showers of victory. And I just believe that we've entered into a very interesting part of the year, the second quarter of this year. And we are expecting great things.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about our guest tonight, Dr. J. You know, last month was such a powerful month, Women's Empowerment Month, and it
Absolutely.
was so powerful. We had some amazing guests on, and this young lady I'm bringing forward, her name is Alexandra Andrews, and she just released a book called The Empowered Woman.
Wow. That says a mouthful right there, the empowered woman. Because if there's ever a time now that we need to be empowered, it is now. And like you said, we have a lot of great guests on in March. But you know, Women's History Month, Women Empowering Month is 365, 24/7, 12 months a year. And I believe that this is appropriate even tonight.
Absolutely. Good evening, Alexander. Thank you for joining us, better known as Lady A.
Lady
Hey,
A. Good evening to all. I'm so excited to be on with you tonight and spend some time with you all and excited to chat about the book. This is my first time on, so I'm excited.
Absolutely. Now, the empowered woman. Now, you wear many hats. So, explain to the audience, give them some tidbits of why you wrote this book, The Empowered Woman.
Well, the book was, a couple of years in the making. Let's just say that. It's a part of my testimony as me and my husband started ministry almost 6 years ago now. And as a part of that journey, like many women's testimony, first ladies' testimony, it was being thrown literally into the deep end, right? You get married. I married my husband. I knew that he was in ministry, but I never foresaw it coming that he would be a pastor, right? I tell
Mm,
people all the time that had the Lord shown me that he would be a pastor, we probably wouldn't have gotten married because I didn't want to marry a pastor, right? I didn't want that. I didn't want that. So, get married and we're having kids and things are going along. And here I am thrown into ministry alongside my husband. And I'm sure, like many women's testimony, having to figure out not just how to balance being a wife and being a mom, and now you have ministry and you're an employee and different things, but really just thrown into a space where you're still trying to figure out who you are, right?
mm.
Who you are called to be, what the Lord has purposed you to do in the earth, right? And so essentially, when you're talking about the empowered woman, I'm walking people through a journey of how you discover that for yourself, right? Apart from being the wife, apart from being the mom, apart from being the entrepreneur, who are you and who has God called you to be, right? And so I think that's important for many women. And I think a lot of women, oftentimes we get lost and wearing the many hats, but we really don't know who we are. So that's what
Absolutely.
this book is about, the empowered woman. And it's really for those, whether you're in ministry, and it doesn't necessarily have to be ministry on the stage, but ministry in all parts, right? All forms, right? Even, I tell women all the time, even serving your family is ministry. Right. It's not always about
absolutely.
being in the four walls, but serving your family is ministry. And oftentimes you get lost in trying to build up everybody else in your house that you don't know who you are. So the empowered woman just covers many different aspects of that. But it is a testimony that I have walked through, or had to walk through, rather. That was a 2-year journey for me. And so it has a lot of nuggets. And I don't want to give everything away. I was told I can't get everything away, but in a nutshell, when you're talking about the empowered woman, it is really speaking to who you are as a woman in the kingdom of God, and how do you navigate finding your purpose, your destiny, your future.
Well, one of the things I liked about the book was the fact that it transcends beyond the church.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we're individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We're um, single women, we're married women, we're mothers, we're
Mm-hmm.
wives, we're
Mm-hmm.
grandmothers, we're aunts. Beyond the ministry, there is a ministry within the ministry,
Yep.
because not everyone is in the church.
Right.
And these nuggets that you gave laid out such magnificent points that can empower the everyday woman,
Yeah.
because we're saying the empowered woman, and you talk about ministry, people will say, well, I'm not in the church, so this book isn't for me. But no,
Right.
this book is a good book. It is for you if you are a real female.
Right.
We know we have artificial females, but we're talking about the real females,
Right.
the empowered woman, and what that means, what that looks like, what that feels like.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it is beyond ministry. And it's something that I had to learn on my own, right? It wasn't something that was taught to me that, listen, don't get caught up in the four walls, but understand that the empowered woman is not just about ministry in the four walls, but it's about ministry outside of the four walls,
Outside.
right? And that can be in many different aspects. That can be whether it's family, that can be whether you're talking about in the secular. And when I say that, I'm talking about business. I'm talking about being an employee. I'm talking about being an entrepreneur. This can be the empowered woman in friendships. This can be whatever that looks like. I had to learn that it is beyond just coming to church on those 2 days you come to church and we're talking about being empowered. It is about in every aspect of your life, talking about how to be the empowered woman. So that was something that I had to learn the hard way, if you want to know the truth, because oftentimes people want to put you in this box of what the first lady should be doing. What are the things that she should be doing, whether it's in the church or outside of the church, right? How should that look, right? And so when you're talking about the empowered woman, it's really showing the woman how to be not only outside of the box of what people say, but really walking in the purpose that God has destined for your life, right? So in other words, it's not about people. It's not about, what they're trying to tell you that you should walk in, but this has to be a relationship between you and the Father, and you have to follow the instructions of what the Lord is telling you that is the path for your life.
I think what you said is so pertinent because it is so easy to get caught up in what I like to call the religious box.
Yeah.
Because it puts us in these paradoxes. And what happened is that we put more emphasis on the title than we do on the person.
Mm-hmm.
And so now people are caught up with the title, and people don't understand, even biblically, the power is not in the title. The power is in the name.
Yeah.
Demons tremble at the name of Jesus, not the title.
Right.
And so when people get caught up in boxes thinking that the only reason to aspire to be empowered is that you hold a position or a title, then they're totally misled. Because and I've seen it happen so many times, that if you took a saint out of the church, they seem like to just flagel in the real world because they don't know what their identity truly is. They've made their identity a title, but don't know what it is to function, as you said, in the marketplace, function in government, function in entrepreneurship, function in being able to empower other women. And so the church creates what I call crabs in the barrel, because everybody's trying to get that title, that position, that there, so that they can have significance. But if I'm understanding you correctly, the empowered woman is not the person who's dying to fit into a box, but the empowered woman has the Diana Ross syndrome. Yeah. I'm coming out, and I want the world to know. I'm going to let it show. That's what the empowered woman is about, recognizing that limitation she's not fighting for. She's not fighting for limitation. She is fighting for her possibilities. And she's feeling that. And I think this book has got to be what is so pertinent in this time, because the cultural narrative of our day has been so rocky when it comes to how do we define women? On one end, women get a bad rap because we call them the angry black woman. And then on the other end, women get a rap because of the fact they're independent. And on the other end, women get a rap because of the fact, they don't subscribe to, the same old prescription of old. But at the end of the day, a woman needs to be empowered. And
Yeah.
she has to walk in that empowerment. And that
Yeah.
empowerment is not necessarily fueled from her position or her
Right.
title, but
Right.
it's fueled from the fact of her knowing her purpose. So that's a
Yeah.
powerful thing. And I like what you said earlier, that you had to discover this.
Yeah.
This wasn't nothing. Nobody gave you a manual and say, "Hey, this is how to be it." You
No.
had to discover it.
Yeah. And it's something that I I feel has been a disservice in the church from those that are, the Bible and Titus talks about the older women and how the older women should teach the younger women
Right.
and the men. I think it has been a disservice because oftentimes we have watched these people, right? We have grown up watching them. We have grown up admiring them, if you will. We have grown up looking at them at what has been presented. But when I say it's been a disservice, is because nobody ever really sat us down and talked to us about the fight to find your identity, right? You come to church and it seems as if, oh, they just woke up like this. They just woke up and they just knew who they were. They knew who they were in Christ. They're confident, they're bold, they're courageous. You see these successful women and it's like, okay, I can do that. But then reality slaps you in the face, right? When you get grown and you get out of your house and you're building family and all of this, and then you realize, no, you just don't wake up like that. This is literally a process and a fight to really dig deep to find out who you are. And that's literally what it was. It literally was I'm tired of going in cycle after cycle, right? I'm tired of being told who I'm supposed to be. But no, there's got to be something deeper than this first lady, right? Yeah, first lady, okay, all of that. But there's got to be something more than that. There's got to be something more than just showing up to church and looking pretty. Like, that's not even my personality. That's not even, you know what I mean? That's not even my demeanor. There's got to be something more to this. And not only that, I'm standing alongside a man who has done ministry, right? He's done this. He was in ministry for years. And I'm like, if I'm going to stand beside him as strong and powerful as he is in ministry, I can't just be the wife, right? And not just ministry, even at home. I can't just be the wife that looked pretty. Right?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
that just is not going to work. So I've got to dig deeper to find out, how do I show up as my whole self, right? Because many women, oftentimes, we come and we want the man to be whole. We want the man to know identity. We want the man to be purpose, but the woman, we don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And if we're being honest, and I'm going to be honest, and
Be honest.
all the brothers who want to write me some, some bad mail, go ahead. Because oftentimes we as men, we almost expect the woman to lose her identity when she becomes a part of our lives. We almost come to the point as if we assume that her sole role is to serve us, to stand beside us. And the reality is that God has placed something inside of her that
Yep.
also is dying to get out. There's things inside of her. We know that women, by the very nature of God, by the very anatomical design of God, by the biological construct of God, they
Right.
are nurturers and they're
You
multipliers.
you could tell he has a bunch of sisters, right?
Yeah.
Indeed, I do. So you look at the fact her purpose has to be greater than a title.
It does.
Purpose has to be greater than a title. And when she is empowered, boy, she makes things happen.
Yeah.
When she's
Not only does she
empowered,
make things
she shakes the
happen,
tree.
yeah, but she makes things easier for the husband. She makes things easier
Absolutely.
for the spouse, because
Yeah.
now I know how to not only help you birth out what you're doing, but now I know how to also birth out what I'm doing as well.
Mhm.
And if and I didn't talk about this in the book. This may be in the book to come, but just a plug. And one of the during this process, the things that I've learned is also being able to have a spouse that also knows how to push you as well. So
Exactly.
it's not this one
That's
sided.
being aligned with the right partner. That's where
Right.
that comes from.
Right. This one-sided, coming into who you are because, I want to be able to stand beside him. but it is realizing that I needed a partner and I have a partner that helped me to birth this out, but also understanding that before I was a wife, I was an individual.
Yeah.
Before I was ever Mrs. Andrews, I was Miss Hagan. That's my maiden name. I was Alexandra. And before I ever connected with him, there was something that the Lord gave me to do. Right. And so it goes back to what you say, that a lot of women, either they lose themselves because they feel like that is what is expected. Right. We're talking about what people expect of you, roles that people try to
Expectations.
put on you, right? Different narratives that people try to put on you of this is what you should be. And that's one of the things, whether the women thinks that or the man thinks that. And it's like, no, I have a responsibility to walk out what the Lord told me to do on the earth, because at the end of the day, he's going to hold me accountable for what he has put on my life, even before I was ever, my mom and daddy ever thought about getting together. My mom and daddy didn't even know each other. The Lord gave me an assignment. The empowered woman is about, you have to understand that this is not about anybody else, but this is about the Lord gave you something that you must do, whether it's in the church or outside the church. And it is your responsibility to birth that out, because there's somebody else, whether they make themselves known or not, is connected to your obedience. I tell that to women all the time. Whether they make themselves known to you or not, whether they say I'm watching you or not watching you, or oh, that made an impact me or not, you're still responsible for saying yes, because your yes, your obedience is going to help somebody else be able to walk out their journey because they're looking at you.
Listen, Lady A, I hear what you're saying, but I have issues. I read that chapter in your book. I have issues. So talk about that. You could live an everyday life and everything seems like it's going okay, but yeah, I'm kind of halfway in the church. I halfway have some friends
Yeah.
because I have issues. Explain that.
Um, well, that's where, if you want to know the truth, and if we're just gonna be honest, that's where it starts, right? It starts with being honest, because we have built this culture in church that um when you come to church, or when people ask you, oh, how are things going, how you doing, oh, all is well, I, I'm good. Everything is good. Everything is buttoned up. And it's like, no, let's just be honest. The honest truth is, you got some issues going on. And before we can really deal with the root of the issue or experience healing or deliverance, you got to be honest, right? And
Absolutely.
what has happened is, because we are so used to putting on, right? Because we are so used to presenting that everything is well, because we want to make sure that we even are being able to, what's the word I'm looking for? We want to be able to make sure we measure up. That's what I'm looking for, to our counterparts, because they're doing this and they're doing that. So I want to make sure that I'm looking like I'm doing something too. I'm going to present like all is well, but when I know in reality, I'm not, right? And I think, and I may have talked about this a little bit, but not in detail, but that's where my passion comes from for mental health, because we have a lot of women who are psychologically, emotionally not well.
Yeah, they're damaged because of some upbringing. Some have gone through trauma
Trauma.
physically,
Yep.
mentally, emotionally, and they
Yep.
tried to cover up with bandages or their fake lives.
Yep.
And then it appears, it resurrects in relationships, and ergo the issues.
The issues.
And
Yep.
so, how can we address that for women that are going through issues and aren't living an authentic life because of the fact that they're chameleons?
You know, I think that, and I'm going through school right now, so this is something that's, again, it's a passion for me, and this is something that I have studied. Whether we in the church, outside the church, whatever the case may be, I wholeheartedly believe that we have to begin to create healthy communities for women where they can be vulnerable, right? Healthy communities where they can be vulnerable. And not only that, we have to learn as women to build healthy relationships, right? Where women can be vulnerable with their issues. You cannot expect a woman to walk into, whether it's a church or whatever the case may be, that they're just going to take off their mask and they're just going to show everything. Because you got to remember, they've been through trauma. Some of them years of trauma. Some of them, the trauma is so bad that you have to build trust. You have to build that safe space before they're even going to take off the mask with you, because you got to remember, they have had an experience with somebody else that I thought was safe, but they turned out not to be safe. I thought that I could trust this person with my issues, but they turned out to be the person that I couldn't trust, right? So it begins with, and this is just what I believe, being able to create safe spaces for women to be vulnerable, right? And not only that, I believe that we have to learn, those of us that have been healed, delivered, and set free, be vulnerable with your testimony, right? You know, if you read in my book, I'm very vulnerable talking about an experience that I went through in college, right? I'm vulnerable, and I'm sure you read that and you probably was like, what? But it's something that I have to be vulnerable with, because if I can't be vulnerable with my own testimony or my own issues or what I went through, how can I expect other women to feel like it's okay to share what they've been through? I'm not still there, but I am vulnerable enough to share that this is where I was, right? This is what
And
I
you can't always tell everybody, so you have to be conscious of your surroundings and who it is that you're sharing it with, because
right.
sometimes individuals can take your pain and use it against you.
Correct. Yeah. And I talk about that in the book too. You have to be mindful, because not everybody has the capacity to be able to be that vulnerable place for you. Everybody doesn't have the capacity for that.
Love you.
Everybody doesn't have the capacity to be able to hear your issue and then not either judge you on the issue or take your issue back and talk about your issue. Like, everybody doesn't have the capacity for that. So you do have to be mindful of that. And I'll talk about that in the book as well.
You know, one of the things that you said that is so important, and it goes back to, once again, when we think of the church, I've said for years, the church ought to be the spiritual trauma center. It ought to be the one place that anybody should be able to come and fall apart. Yeah, I mean, you ought to be able to walk up in church. If you feel like you're about to lose your mind up in here, you ought to be able to say, I feel like I'm going out of my head. Right. But because we misconstrue, watch this, we misconstrue imperfection as being something wrong. We misconstrue the fact of a person, whether it's mental illness, mental sickness, whether a person's going through something, as if there is something wrong with them in the sense of something not being right, something that is imperfect, something that is shameful. Right. We have to understand something. From birth to death is called life. It is a process. We are conceived in joy, but we're delivered in pain. We're conceived in joy. You better believe it. Oh, yeah, girl, I remember your mama got pregnant right about this time. You're conceived in joy. Yeah. But who you become, you're delivered in pain. Yeah. When a woman gives birth, there ain't nothing joyous about it until that baby comes into the world. She conceived, she's delivered in pain. And what we have to allow space, and you talk about vulnerability and transparency, is this. Individuals who have already fractured themselves will measure other people's fault. They will compare that person's fault to their perfected area. Yeah. So I take what you are deficient in. Yeah. And I hold that up against what I am strong in. Yeah. And I now form an opinion about you. Right. But the reality is that when we create safe spaces, inside of that, I have a thing I live by, and I know Dr. Val knows about it. I live by this, whether it's relationships or whoever. When I deal with individuals, I give them what I call judge-free moments. Yeah. That's a verbal contract. Yeah. And what it simply says is this: no matter what you share with me in this moment, I absolve myself from any judgment of who you are. I'm not going to try to explain away your reality. I'm not going to try to explain away why you do it. No, I am going to be an ear. I'm going to be a support. I am going to be that place that sometimes we just need to be able to unload somewhere that is safe.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And we have to create those type of environments. And as much as women are worker bees in the church, you got a lot of folks that are working because they can't face the stuff they're really dealing with in their lives.
Absolutely.
They stay busy because it's the only thing that gives them significance. But in the meantime, there's still a void that needs to be filled. And we have to create that space and be smart enough, even from leadership, to recognize that sister needs a break. That sister needs to be ministered to. Stop making she-roles and superwoman out of every woman. Sometimes she don't need to be superwoman. She just needs a place to lay her head. She needs to be able to have that place, I call it, to fall apart. You know, in the Psalm, he said, he leadeth me besides what? The still waters.
Still waters.
And sometimes we need to be in that place where there's some still waters. Still waters run deep. Still waters penetrate the soul. Still waters go to a place where I'm not in a performance mode. And that's a big word. Because so many times with titles come this obligation to perform. With titles come this obligation. And that's why people go out of their way. People are doing crazy stuff because the fact I didn't get but 3 likes. You know, their self-worth now is dictated by affirmations and likes that they get on social media. And it goes to show you that somewhere along the line, what I'm looking for, I have not found.
And you know that I agree with all that you have said, and you know, it is just some of the points that I absolutely talk about in the book, talking about making sure that you're around the right people that can handle your vulnerabilities, if you will, because not everybody, you know, can handle, or as you have said, can be that ear for you. With you know, without causing further damage. Let me say that, because there are some people that, you know, we feel that they are the ear, you know, this is the ear, I can talk to this person. But a lot of times, like the woman with the issue of blood in the Bible, she saw all these physicians, and even through that, those were not safe spaces for her. Let's just say that, since we're talking about safe spaces, they weren't safe spaces for her. They weren't places where she could find her healing. They weren't places where she could find what she needed. And so ultimately she had to go to the source. And so when you're talking about the empowered woman, ultimately we have to understand that what we need, and what every woman, I don't care whether you're in the church, outside of the church, in the marketplace, whatever your position is, our ultimate source is Jesus Christ, right? That is where you're going to find this empowered woman. It is not going to come in titles. It's not going to come in what you do. It's not going to come in who you serve, but it is going to be coming connected.
It's not going to come with who you sleep with.
Who you sleep with?
Dating,
no, it's not going to come with who
married.
You no,
what job you have.
What job you have. And, you know, let me tell you, there are a lot of women who feel like, when I get married, or marriage is what's going to define me.
It's going to save them from the reality that they have. But when they have issues, they take that baggage into the relationship, and the marriage doesn't go well. The relationship doesn't go well. And a lot of times, you know, we find individuals that are in relationships, and they could be in a relationship with someone for years, and they break up, and that person go and marry someone within a matter of months. But you've given all that time, you've exposed yourself. And then now here you are. So this is one of the things that, you know, women need to realize, is that we don't have to allow someone to define us, and we never prioritize anyone that makes us an option.
Right.
That goes back to self-worth. That goes back to self-worth and understanding who you are. And the thing about it, if we don't have a standard, if we don't have a standard, watch this, to be able to derive who we are, we will be tossed by every wind and doctrine. We'll be tossed by every fad. What does the empowered woman look like this month? What do they look like next month? You know, and so we do all these things because we're trying to fit into what I would call the social norms. But the reality is that you find your purpose from your purpose maker inside of that. You know, in Jeremiah, it says, "For I know the thoughts and plans that I have toward you." It didn't say towards your husband. It didn't say towards men only. But I know my thoughts and plans that I have towards you, and it's for good, and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. Here's the thing about it: Do we ever think about it that it would be good and it is necessary that we get to know the faults and the plans that he
Plan.
has towards us? And then,
Absolutely.
is he a trusted source? Yes, he is, because in that
Yes.
same Jeremiah book, it talks about the fact before you were ever formed in your
Yep.
mother's womb,
Right.
I knew you. Now, watch
Knew you.
this.
Yep. Yep.
I knew you.
Mhm.
I knew you. I knew you. I more than just was acquainted with you, but
Right.
I knew you.
Knew
I'm
you.
talking about, beyond yada. I knew you.
Mhm.
Watch
Yeah.
this. Most people oftentimes are running from being discovered
Yep.
because they know themselves, and they will focus on their limitation. They will focus on their failure. They
Yep.
will focus on their flaws. They will magnify the problem. And
Right.
so it murders their own self-esteem. But isn't it something when we understand the purpose of who we are?
Yeah.
I could not have gotten to where I am. You can never get to where you are unless life take you through some cycles. And those
Yep.
cycles are going to be failure.
You
But I
will
don't
go
believe
through
there are
cycles.
failures in life. There's only lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there's a lesson.
Yep.
We live life forward, but
Yeah.
we understand life backwards.
Yeah.
We live life forward, but we
Yeah.
understand it better backward. Because when I
Absolutely.
look back of what I've come through, I
Right.
understand life a little bit better.
A little
And
bit
so,
better.
and so we have to take that in consideration, because I do believe this. It doesn't matter how many mistakes or failures that you have. The worst thing that can happen is not to learn the lesson
Yeah.
from what you've gone through.
Right.
Because in the lesson, it reveals to who I am. It
Yeah.
reveals. Because some people, if they never find that safe space, if they never find it, then they need to understand they're looking for it in the wrong place.
Absolutely.
They're looking for it in the wrong place.
Absolutely.
And I believe that if we're going to walk hand in hand, I want to address this especially to men. I believe that even inside of a man, I believe that he does have a responsibility to speak over his companion, over his
Right.
He has a responsibility to speak life to them.
That's what covering is. That's what
that's what
covering
covering
is.
is all about. He
Absolutely.
has a
Every broken place to help mend that and put it back together again.
Yep.
Absolutely. And there's a blessing in brokenness when we understand that, because until it's broken, we don't know what to do with it until it's been fixed. And
Yeah.
so we understand purpose even through our brokenness.
Yep.
And if a woman or a man, if they ever knock down in life, they can get back up. But
Yes.
it's a matter of what is it that I subscribe to?
Right.
What is it that I subscribe? Because here's the thing about it. A subscription is different from a prescription.
Come
A
on.
subscription is different from a prescription.
Yes, it
The
is.
subscription is what I voluntarily enrolled in,
Yes,
whether
it
it's
is.
Jet Magazine or Home and Garden or whatever. I subscribe to it.
Yeah.
But the prescription is the answer
Yeah.
to what ails me.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
until we get those things to marry each other,
Yeah.
oftentimes we're going to still be wondering, who am I?
Yep.
What am I doing here? And
Yep.
looking for someone else to tell us who we
To
are.
validate.
To validate.
Because if
Yeah.
we don't know who we are, believe me, somebody will tell us.
They'll tell.
Mhm.
Yeah. They'll tell you. And many times, we just came out of Women's History Month. But as women, especially as Black women in the Black community, right? We have to have a handle on our identity and who we are. Because if you don't, they'll tell you who you are, right?
Absolutely.
And so, when you're talking about the empowered woman knows who she is, and nobody can tell her who she is, because I know who I am, right? I've gone through the trials, I've gone through the tribulation, I've gone through the healing, I've gone through the deliverance, and I can stand 10 toes down, right? And I can tell you who I am, because I have formed this relationship not only with the Lord, but I have gone through some things, right? And it has taught me some things, and it has really formed some things in me. And so we just as women, and this is of course not just for Black women, of course, but I'm a Black woman. So my and I have Black daughters, and so I am constantly, and we're talking about the empowered woman, and it's so funny because when the book came, my daughters were so excited and they wanted to read. It was like, "Mommy, can we read a chapter?" So I, I said, "All right, I'll let you read this, or I'll let you read that." But for them to be able to see, and me at this point knowing the things that I have went through to be able to now start teaching them some of these lessons is powerful, right? It's powerful. And so you know, it's you got to go get the book, because I don't want to go into too much detail. I've been told that I can't, but you got to go get the book, because there's so many nuggets in the book, throughout the book, as well as me sharing my personal testimony. And in that book, I give spiritual, practical, I give scripture. You know, Dr. Val, she's on here, she could tell you. You know, I give step by step. I mean, so many different things that I give in the book, that it is for this time and for this season and for this generation.
Well, one of the things I like about it is so many women need help and they don't know where to get it from. And they are part of ministries, you know, there, and then some of them aren't part of ministries and they don't know where to go. And then they have so many uh, things that are in their emotional vault and they don't know how to release that. But this book, The Empowered Woman, what it does is it like gives you an aha moment and let you know that you're not alone, because one of the things that the enemy inside says, and what he does is tell you that you're the only one going through a situation, and
Yeah.
that you're this because you went through that, and you feel your self-esteem has been chopped away because you went through this and you went through that. But this
Yep.
book shows you how you can rise and become a better version of yourself, and not
Absolutely.
only better but a greater version, so
Greater
that you can
version.
be a light to someone else. So I invite you to get the book and go to the website ladyaministries.com, and if you want to email her, you can do ladyaministries@yahoo.com, and you know, support the work she's doing. She does workshops, and she does some coaching. So you email her at ladyaministries@yahoo.com, then see what provisions she can make for you, because right now we could do things through Zoom, we got Skype, we got phone calls.
Yeah.
Women need help. They need a voice. They need to
Yeah.
be able to communicate how they feel. And
Yeah.
trust me, if you're able to take what's going on inside and take it outside into a positive environment and
Yeah.
not just lash out, you'll be a
Right.
better person if you're able to communicate to someone who can understand and also minister to your pain.
Yeah. And I just want to just come behind you and just reiterate and say that, you know, we're in a time and we're in a place where just make sure that you're connected to the right help, because many times we connect to help because, oh, this person worked for me, so you should go to them. Or be led by the Spirit of the Lord in terms of what help you're connecting to in this
Absolutely.
season that we're in, because so many people have connected to what they thought was help, and it has uh made things worse, right? I've seen it time and time again, where we connect to what is the latest fad, right? Because social media now,
Absolutely.
everything is, you know, oh, well, they got these numbers and they got these numbers, but that might not necessarily be the help that the Lord has assigned to you, right? Almost kind of like, you know, Ruth and Naomi, that was assigned help. You got to make sure that you're connected to somebody that the Lord has said, I've assigned this person to your life, and this is going to be the person that's going to be able to take you out of where you are. And not only that, you can trust them. So you got to make sure you're connected to somebody that you trust their voice, you trust where they are leading you, and you trust that they are a safe space. So I just want to say that, right? This cannot be a decision based off of your friends, your family, no. This has got to be something that has to be spirit led, because if not, it could be detrimental. And I just want to throw that out there, right? Because oftentimes, you know, we are led by what other people say. But I believe we're beyond that. You got to get to the place where you can hear the Lord for yourself. And you got to make sure that the Lord is giving you a green light, that they are the help that you need.
You know, that's a word to the wise. That's a powerful word, because oftentimes we live in a day and time where I call it's a time of iconic popularity. And
Yeah.
that sometimes we can miss God because we're looking for his help and his connection through popularity. And what we have to understand, that everything popular is not necessarily God.
Yeah.
And I don't care how popular someone is, it's not going to cause you to be able to be exempted from the process that God has your life to go through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what they promise you. It doesn't matter what how much
That's
it
good.
shines and glitter. There are certain processes that you and I will go through. And once again, deliverance comes through pain.
Yeah.
Deliverance comes through pain. Growing, there's a reason why we use the term growing
Growing
pains.
pains.
There
Yep.
must be pain in order to grow. And so when we go through pain, it should not be a signal to us that something is wrong, but it
Right.
should be a signal to us that something is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
I
Something.
won't remain the same. And so I want to encourage people, don't give up, don't miss out on who or what God wants to connect you to, because it does not come in your Baskin Robbins 33 flavors.
It may
There
be
are times,
somewhere Mel that you don't. I want you to say that you don't, because you was going there. It may
yeah,
be help from somebody that
somebody that
you
you don't even care
don't
for.
like.
Yes,
They
exactly.
don't. They listen. You don't like them. I don't like your personality. We just don't mesh. Like, I mean, I get this all the time, and I'm like,
Right.
well, the Lord didn't send them for you to like them. The Lord
Absolutely.
sent them for them to help you
Yes.
to get you out of what you are in, right? And so that's a big thing
Absolutely.
in the church, because we want to connect to people that we like. Well, this ain't about who you like. This is about who is God ordained for your life, that's going to help you. So I'm glad that you brought that out, right? Because it might not be in the basket of flavors that you like, but it's
Exactly.
going to help you be delivered.
And then we have to always understand there's two sides to this life mission. There's a side that we are serving, and there's a side that we're being served. And so many
Yeah.
people operate out of what I call the reverse Jonah simplex. I
That's
told you to
good.
go to Nineveh, but you want to go to Tarsus. No, no, your purpose is not based upon your likes.
Yeah.
Because see, inside of your assignment is everything that is meant to also produce in you what God wants to produce in you. But if
Mhm.
I'm going to keep level of my likes, my preference, what is comfortable to me, what makes me look like I've expired and all that, God said,
Right.
no, you're just full of hot air. You still don't know who you are, because if
Yep.
I move anything from under you right there, you're going to fall flat on your face. But I'm going to put you through some situation, folks, that you don't even like. You don't like the way they smell. You don't like the way they drive. You don't like anything about them. But that's exactly where God wants to put you, because he's going to teach you tolerance. He's going to teach you
Yep.
patience. He's going to
Yep.
build a capacity inside of you, and you're going to be able to understand what grace is in dealing with folks.
Come on.
Lord, I have two preachers up
You
on
got
here.
two preachers on here tonight. We got
Well, we're out of time. And you have any closing remarks, Lady A?
again, I am grateful that I was able to come on with you and Dr. Thicklin. I have enjoyed myself. I pray that something that was said encouraged somebody. For those that are watching now or watch the replay, go get the book. And I will go as
Absolutely.
far as say this: even if you are a male, a man that's watching, still go get the book, because there are nuggets that are in the book, so many nuggets that are in the book that are still applicable even to the
Right.
men.
To help you understand.
Yeah, my husband, he got the book. He had to pay for the book. I didn't give him the book free. So he got
Look at you. Look at you. My
so,
goodness
oh
gracious.
yes, Dr. Tickler, yes, I did. He got the book, and I said, "Now, where's my money?" He gave me my money. Got my money. Okay. So anyway, so even my husband got the book, and even he could tell you, there were just some things he was like, "Wow," So any man that's watching, I know it says the empowered woman, but it's just not for women. Men can get the book too. So the website is below, and go to the website. You can get the paperback ebook is there as well. And so, I'm just excited about the lives that this book is going to transform.
Yes, indeed.
Because I
Indeed.
just believe that the Lord gave it to me. I wrote what the Lord gave to me. And not only that, I've walked through it myself. So I'm just appreciative that you all had me on tonight, and I really enjoyed my time with you all.
Well, I
Well, we're glad that
appreciate
you've
you
been on
taking
with us.
time from your busy schedule. As I said, we tried to get you last month, but here you are. Thank you so much. But God's timing is always perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Dr. J, any closing remarks?
My closing remark is absolutely, I am blessed. I am so enlightened by what you said without having read the book, but I'm going to order my copy of the book. I'm going to encourage every brother, every man to also get the book for this reason here. Not only to, I think that there may be some nuggets there to help us understand our role in how to deal with the empowered woman or the role that we play in helping to empower that woman. Because as you know, too often, brothers, depends on our headspace and our toxic masculinity, we've done more damage to disempower women than we have to empower them. And I think that being able to read this is a good read to give us, if you would, clarity and to understand our posture and our perspective when we're dealing with our women.
That's good. Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Dr. J. And I want to encourage the audience, if this show has been a blessing to you, pass it along and visit www.ladyaministries.com. And you can also email Lady A at ladyaministries@yahoo.com. Until next week, good night and God bless.
Good night.
Good night.